500 laps for the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series Sunday at Bristol featured most of the usual things, a full house, some bent fenders and bruised feelings, and at the end of the day, Kyle Busch in victory lane.
43 strong. This is the first of 6 short track races in 2009.
1/2 mile, the fastest half mile in all of motorsports.
Kyle Busch sizzling red hot this season.
Battle for the shaking up in turn 2 between Johnson and Kyle Busch.
Here comes Kyle Busch to his outside.
And now gives Kyle Busch a clean charge at Jimmy Johnson.
His dominance today has been no laughing matter. I say Kyle Busch gets the last snicker. Kyle Busch is going to survive the green-white checkered finish and win the Food City 500 at Bristol Motor Speedway.
Way to go, boys. Way to bring it.
His second win of 2009, his second at Bristol, and the 14th on his Sprint Cup Series career.
Kyle Busch picked up his second win of this season and second at Bristol in a Cup car, this time leading 378 of 500 laps en route to victory lane. Bristol becoming the first track Kyle gets a repeat win at. All of his previous 13 wins came at 13 different tracks. Denny Hamlin's runner-up finish giving Joe Gibbs Racing their 6th 1-2 sweep of all time. Jimmy Johnson got his best ever Bristol finish with 3rd. We'll look at the wrecks, the winners, and the wish we'd run betters next on NASCAR Now. From the Home Depot Garage Studio, welcome to the Monday Roundtable edition of NASCAR Now. When you come away from a Bristol race, you always come away usually with 2 things: ringing ears and talking about who's mad at who. We go over that for the next hour with our Monday Roundtable panel. Ray Evernham, Dale Jarrett, and Andy Petrie. All right, quick answer. Which did better this weekend? Your basketball bracket or your fantasy team in racing?
My basketball bracket was actually a little better for me.
Yeah.
Oh, my fantasy team was pretty good.
Yeah, not bad.
I felt pretty good about my fantasy team. This week I made some points.
No, well, there you go. Very good. We'll check out the fantasy teams later in the week. The basketball brackets I don't want to talk about because my team lost. Let's talk about the Bristol race, an event pretty well dominated by 3 drivers: Kyle Busch, Denny Hamlin, and Jimmy Johnson. Kyle led for the first time at lap 69, taking that lead from Jimmy. He'd lead all but 54 of the remaining laps. When he did give up the point, he lost it to Hamlin, this time at the end of a very long green flag run. After an exchange of pit stops, Johnson is back out in front, but in traffic, it's Kyle back to the lead.
He showed right here that he was going to be able to pass anywhere, not just the slower cars, but he goes to the outside and makes the pass on Jimmy Johnson.
Final pit stops coming up here. This one the opposite of the last one. The 18 had trouble last time. This time he's clean, and it's the 48 that has a little snafu.
And it's hard with that short amount of time. He got back behind some good cars. I think they hung up a lug nut, but it cost him about 3 spots, and he never could get back. Not enough time to get back up there.
So Kyle is holding a steady lead over Denny Hamlin, and the race comes inside the final 10 laps when there's trouble on the track. Joey Logano.
Yeah, that motor lets go in the Home Depot car, and it actually hurt Denny Hamlin probably the most. I thought maybe he had a shot at Kyle Busch, if not for this green-white checker where, I mean, Kyle Busch is incredible on these green-white checker finishes.
So Kyle zips away to the checkered flag in a race dominated by 3 men. Kyle was dominant of all of them.
I'm not out there to be number one. We all know who number one is and forever will be. So, you know, to me, I go out there to win races and to be number one on the racetrack. And so that's where I feel like I win and where my benefit is. For me, you know, I don't think I would enjoy having the most fans out there. You know, I actually like the way I am, the role I portray. And I think that there's probably too much pressure on one guy's shoulders who doesn't seem to win very often. But, you know, for us, it's a blast to go out there and do what we do. And, you know, today the Snickers Toyota was good enough.
It's a solid run for us, but yeah, we just needed long runs. Our car was extremely good on the long run, and I knew when we had a caution with 50 to go, you know, we were going to have to get out on pit road ahead of those guys to have something for them. It just it didn't work out that way. We had a car we could keep up with him. That was the best we were able to keep up with him in the short run all day. So we kept making gains on it, just didn't get a long enough run.
For 7 years, we've come here and been kind of, you know, kicked around and left here with our you know, our pride beat up. So to come here with a different race car, a different setup, different plan, and to really work on it, it went awesome.
You know, when I said these three drivers spent most of the day out front, I wasn't kidding. I told you Kyle led all but 54 of the final 432 laps. Hamlin started 24th, yet his average running position for the race was 5th. And of the 122 laps Kyle didn't lead, Jimmy led 88 of them and averaged the second-place running position on the track all day. These three guys spent most of the race running in the top 3 positions. A few things I want to detail here about the day. First, I want to start with that last green-white checker finish. Remember last August's race at Bristol when Kyle led most of the night and lost out late in the race? He and Carl Edwards got into it. Well, that last restart was a chance for this thing to get away from Kyle, and it didn't.
He wasn't having any of that, and I don't know that I've ever seen Kyle Busch lose a green-white checker. The one before at Bristol was they had 30-some laps to go, and Carl got to his back bumper. But Kyle wasn't going to let that happen. He's one of the best that I've ever seen in taking off with his race car, getting up to speed. We see right here as he goes through 1 and 2, looks like he hardly lets out of the throttle at all. Now, Denny stayed with him for a minute, but it's those next corners, he just takes over.
And I'll tell you, as I've been saying all year, you've seen a different Kyle Busch. I think he studied everywhere where he thought he made a mistake last year, and he's learned, and he seems to be a better racer this year, which is a bad news for everybody else.
I think the thing that kept Jimmy Johnson from having a shot at Kyle Busch was the problem on the pit stop. With 46 laps to go, he came in second, came out 5th. Silly thing like a lug nut.
Yeah, it can happen to you, though. These pit stops are so critical on the short tracks, and when you make a mistake, especially late in the race, that's the killer, because he lost all these spots, and then he actually got some pressure from behind on the restart from Jeff Gordon before he was able to drive back up there, so it really cost Jimmy.
It took him until the green-white checker to even challenge Denny for second spot then, and I think that kept Jimmy from having a chance. But Jimmy said some interesting things after the race that I want to talk about. He talked about how Bristol's been a source of frustration for him, and he said that he and the Hendrick engineering team sat down and thoroughly broke down the Bristol racetrack, and Jimmy said, I told them what I needed, and they came up with it.
Well, and one of the things I noticed about the 48 car is that it was heavy on the rev chip. And by that, it just makes the motor miss a little bit so it doesn't over rev it. I wonder if they were using that to get Jimmy to slow down, because Jimmy's one of those guys that drives hard into the corner. And at Bristol, I don't know, DJ, does that help you slowing down for the corner like Martinsville?
Oh, absolutely. I think a lot of times it's easy to overdrive that racetrack because you do have the banking to lean on. But if you back out, let the car roll and get back to the throttle sooner, and that's probably something that Jimmy Johnson saw. I'm impressed that they sat down and listen to the driver as to what do you think that you need to go better here. And I think the no testing rule has not only helped Jimmy Johnson, but Jeff Gordon's team also. They're able to do more things in the shop, listen to the drivers, and get them what they're wanting.
Yeah, and if you look back on the reasons that they weren't as competitive as they needed to be this time last year, and you listen to them, they say it's because of the lack of testing. And now that nobody can test, maybe they're doing a better job of that than some of the other teams.
With some of the away from the track stuff and researching it out. Denny Hamlin talked about his car being a long-run car. You heard him there just a minute ago. Define a long-run car versus a short-run car. What's it mean?
Oh, what they mean, 15, 20 laps or so is a short-run car, but a long-run car, 50, 75 laps, it could be a difference in shocks, difference in tire pressure. As the race wears on and the tires get hotter and more wore out, his car was running a little bit better.
Yeah, and I think the driver has a little something to do it with his driver's style too, that maybe he's just not charging the corner quite as hard. He's able to take care of that right front, not heat it up, and then drive around the corner, and it's just a lot easier. But they had a great setup under that car.
Yeah, and Denny, on the long green run, it was 120 laps into that run when he passed Kyle and took the lead. They never got to run that long again the rest of the race, although, like you were talking about, it looked like at the end he was closing on him. Then that last caution came out.
They had made some ground on it, and you heard Denny say that even though they weren't very good in the short run, they did help it a little bit. In that last run, if they hadn't got that green-white checker, he may have had a shot at him.
Back to Kyle Busch for just a minute. We've talked a lot last season about what a spectacular year 2008 was for Kyle across all of NASCAR's national tours. Well, last year he won 21 races, right? 8 Cup, 10 Nationwide, 3 trucks. Through 5 weekends in 2009, he's ahead of that pace. He's already won 5 times. How much better can it get for this guy and for his race teams? Later in the show, we will talk about the Joe Gibbs Racing 1-2 sweep with the man himself, team owner Joe Gibbs, coming up later in this hour. But up next, we talked about the 3 who dominated the Bristol race. We will look at some others who also had very solid efforts on Sunday in Thunder Valley, and that list is pretty long. And the flip side of that as well, those who didn't have the day they were hoping for and the reasons for said disappointment. That when the NASCAR Now Monday Roundtable continues. talk about some others who had solid days at Bristol Sunday.
Yeah, Jeff Gordon was my pick to win the race, and even though he didn't get to victory lane here, he had another very good points day.
He dropped back a bit, but rallied to finish in 4th.
Tell you what, I got to give this team a ton of credit, man. They kept us in the game on pit road, great pit stops, and Steve Letarte just kept me pumped up, kept making adjustments. Right there at the end was the best that we were all day long. We just needed to go a little bit different direction sooner, and we got off, and we finally got it back. And top 5, man, I'll take that.
Casey Kane finished 5th.
Good solid day for Casey and his crew chief Kenny Francis. They got their first top 5 of the year, top finishing Dodge. Looks like they've got that thing going good.
He started 5th, finished 5th. That sounds routine, but we all know Bristol's never that easy.
It was a good effort. I think the team did the best. I think they showed that they wanted to win today. They showed that they wanted to have great pit stops and no mistakes, and they did that. So I had a great car after about 30 laps. We had our Budweiser Dodge was quick, and I did the best I could. It just wasn't quite good enough to get up there with Denny and Kyle.
And then there was Mark Martin, started on the pole, led the opening couple of laps, then fell back, but was pretty much in the top 10, most all race, lost a couple spots in the final laps, but still 6th place money for Mark on Sunday.
Man, that was so much fun. Those long runs, the last 3 runs we made, and we got long runs every time. That car was really incredible, and I really thought that we had a shot at it. But the last change we made, the car wasn't as happy, and it just didn't take off there. But it was awesome anyway. Great day.
We got to have a happy race car. How about Ryan Newman?
Yeah, Ryan's starting to get his 2009 season on track by sitting on the outside pole and having a strong run all day long. Getting a 7th place finish is just the medicine this team needed.
Good day for Newman at Bristol.
It was a good day. I mean, a good finish and a greatly needed finish based on the points. So I'm not even sure that's a sentence, but it was a good effort for the U.S. Army Chevrolet. The guys did a great job on pit road, on the racetrack, making calls, making adjustments to the car. Stayed in the top 10 virtually the whole race, and got a much-needed points finish for us.
A couple of other noteworthy performances. How about Jeff Burton? Started 40th. He used a little strategy to get some track position. Then he raced his way to the rest to get 8th.
Kind of typical day for Jeff Burton. Exactly what you expect from him, and he did a great job getting himself in the top 10.
Nice top 10 for Burton. Juan Pablo Montoya started 12th. Had a little tangle with Jamie McMurray a quarter of the way into the race. Got warned by NASCAR about some rough driving, but then had a clean, solid drive and came up finishing 9th.
They needed a good solid day, and the deal with him is I don't know how he does so good on these short tracks.
Yeah, that's not exactly in his background, is he? Maybe the most noticed drive of the day besides the winner, this guy, Marcos Ambrose.
Marcos Ambrose had an outstanding run, and he had an engine problem midway through the race, or he would have gotten even a better finish. He still got a top 10 finish out of this, but if his engine doesn't go sour, he would have got a lot more.
So we checked the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series championship standings after the day. Jeff Gordon's 4th place finish kept him as the point leader this week. Kurt Busch, who came back from some wreck damage to finish 11th, moves past Clint Boyer to 2nd in the standings, while Kyle Busch is up 3 spots to 4th. Both Denny Hamlin and Jimmy Johnson moved into the top 10, knocking Brian Vickers and Greg Biffle out. Now, Biffle getting knocked out leads our next story, which is some of those who did not have the kind of Sundays they were hoping for at Bristol. And the Roush Fenway team as a whole would top that list for me. You had Biffle, who had the engine problem. You had Matt Kenseth, who bounced off the wall and did some damage to the splitter on his car. You had McMurray with 2 spins on the day. And David Reagan just kind of so-so. Carl Edwards was the best of their cars, and he didn't even get a top 10 finish. The Roush Fenway team really struggled on Sunday at Bristol.
No, but we've seen this happen before. I can tell you one thing, Jack will get fired up and they'll find out what's wrong. They'll change something. The last time he went after the front end on the cars, got him handling, so you could bet that the Tuesday morning meeting there will be interesting.
Let's hear what they had to say about their days.
The motor blew up. I can't believe it that we lost an engine in a place like this. Very discouraging. It's really going to hurt us in the points, and they're worried about me making the whole race, the driver, but I felt really good in the car. It sucks. We had a top 10, top 12 car, ran there all day long, but unfortunate.
So Biffle out of that race, and it has been a tough 3-week stretch for Roush Fenway. Just one top 5 finish from their 5 drivers. A 3rd place run by Carl Edwards in Atlanta. Edwards, the only driver to average better than a 20th place finish in that 3-week stretch. Ouch. And this, by the way, for a team that won the first 2 races of this season. Not good.
No, it's really not. And you look back at Carl Edwards' 3rd place finish at Atlanta, that was some pit strategy that actually got them there, putting on 2 tires. So yeah, it's a mystery right now as to why this team isn't performing. I think we all expected a lot more. I expected Jimmy Murray to be up there. I really expected David Reagan to have a chance of winning races here early in the season.
Well, do you think maybe the new testing policy may have hurt the Roush teams more than the other teams? What do you think, Ray?
It could. You know, they did an awful lot of testing, and on top of that, they're having some motor issues, so that may well be a result of not testing.
Interesting, too, because that's a team that had not had a lot of motor issues last year, but they've had a spate of it early in this season. Some speculation about what might be causing that, but it's there, and whatever it is, they've got to get it fixed. Another group that had some tough sledding on Sunday. Guy gets a lot of attention every week. He got a lot of attention this weekend, too, and that's Dale Earnhardt Jr. Jr. started in the back of the field because of a transmission change. Got lapped, got the free pass twice, ended up 14th at the finish. Now, the guy started last, finished 14th. Was it a bad day?
Well, we worked real hard. We had great pit stops, and we just had terrible track positions. I qualified real poorly and made some mistakes in my qualifying lap and hurt our qualifying efforts so bad that we never had track position all day. And we had a good competitive car, a top 10 car for sure, and just could never get there.
So like I said, he started last. He finished 14th. How bad a day was it? It's Junior, though, and with all the other Hendrick cars finishing in the top 6, it's getting a lot of attention. Thoughts on why this 88 team seems to be not where some of the other Hendrick teams are? Anybody?
Well, I don't know, but they really, the fans, all of the Junior fans and all NASCAR fans are expecting a lot more out of this 88 car. Yeah. I know it was a decent day, yeah. I mean, he still finished 14th and rallied and did pretty well from the back, but his fans expect a lot more.
Yeah, just you said a decent day, but that's not what we expect from Dale Jr. and that entire organization at Hendrick Motorsports. And, you know, I'd have to say that there's a lot of speculation right now, a lot of things, a lot of talk going on. Yeah, I think Tony Jr. does a great job of leading that team, but, you know, we have 2 races coming up here before we have another week off, and that's at Martinsville and at Texas. And I'm going out on a limb here and say if they don't have some better performance there, then we might see some changes there. We know the driver's going to stay, but, you know, I think that they have to perform at a better level than what they are right now.
I agree, and the communication is a big part of that, and we've been saying over and over again, there just doesn't seem to be the communication between that group that the rest of Hendrick Motorsports has. So something will change, because I know Rick, and he's not going to have that thing running in the back.
And those weeks off are generally opportune times for those to happen, right? So we'll see what happens there with Dale Jr. But again, the back to 14th, decent, but not the kind of result that everybody's expecting out of that group. Up next, the man whose cars took the top 2 spots in Sunday's Bristol 500 lapper, the coach Joe Gibbs, when the NASCAR Now Monday Roundtable continues.
Race number 5 for the Sprint Cup Series. It's always a wild one here at Bristol.
500 laps. We're going to make them all today.
Nice and smooth today, guys. The George Jobs will be in good shape.
Mark Martin will start the action today. He'll pull the train to turn 1.
Started tight and now it's getting neutral. That's what, 10 on your tires.
I'm pretty hot on water and oil. 240, 250. Shouldn't be too bad. We get above 260, then we'll have a problem.
Jimmy Johnson slips by the pole sitter, Mark Martin.
You're keeping pace with all these guys behind us, bud.
Right now, battle for the lead shaping up between Johnson and Kyle Busch.
About a tenth and a half quicker than him right there.
Kyle Busch makes quick work of Johnson Chevrolet. Kyle Busch now the new race leader.
By 5 lengths, 1 car between you.
I think we're pretty good here for a while. You know, pay attention to what the 48's saying, what the 11's saying. We can keep up with what they're doing.
Denny Hamlin, who's got a fast car, trying to root and gouge his way through a lot of lap traffic.
A little bit free on exit, tight in the center. Just chattering all the 4 tires right now.
How many cars are in the lead lap, guys?
I think everybody's eating a snack right now, bub.
Better center, just a titch worse exit, but I like it both.
Kyle Busch continues to be the race leader, and he's got some open racetrack.
Got a spin on the back. Caution's out. Trying to wreck in front of you. Get your hand up, get your hand up, get the bottom, get the bottom, get the bottom.
Back it down, low, go low, go low.
Is there any way we can just quit now?
Son of a
This is
once again is open, and it's going to be very busy.
Wheel straight, foot on the brake. Ready. Stop, check it up.
The big loser in that exchange, Jimmy Johnson.
I'll have it back there. Don't really know just yet, bud.
Kyle Busch went on to pit road as the leader. He stays there.
Good job, guys. Thanks.
Pair of Toyotas lead the way here in the late going at Bristol. It's Kyle Busch, Denny Hamlin.
We're all right on the long run. We shatter the rear tires on the short run, just get too loose.
Get up on that wheel, you can get him.
Kyle Busch, dominating performance. Doesn't look like anybody really challenged.
It's turning better, but it's leaving a little worse. It's okay, though.
Kyle Busch rockets out of turn number 4, and he'll claim the Food City 500.
Hell yeah, boys! What's up? Bristol, buddy. Always wanted to win one of these things here.
Sizzling red hot this season. Already 2 W's. Nobody could put a glove on Kyle Busch.
Well, Sunday at Bristol was the 6th time Joe Gibbs Racing has swept the top 2 spots in a Sprint Cup Series race, the 4th time in the last 3 seasons. Tony Stewart won the race the first 3 times the sweep happened. Kyle Busch has won the last 3. Well, when your cars finish 1-2 in any NASCAR Sprint Cup race, any NASCAR race for that matter, you've had a pretty good Sunday. And the man who owns the team that did just that joins us now, Coach Joe Gibbs from the team shops in Huntersville, North Carolina. Coach, if you can't be smiling on a Monday like this, I can't help you. I'm sorry.
No, I agree with you. If you can't get happy about this, then you need to get out. But anyway, it was a great day for us. It is an extremely hard place to win a race, period. And then you have 2 of your cars, 1 and 2. It was an exciting day for us. But it did run the whole gamut, from Kyle winning it, Denny wanting it so bad and finished 2nd, Joey racing his guts out all day and going to sit there probably 26th, 27th and blows the motor with 8 to go. And I'm sitting there going, oh my gosh, now one of our cars is oiled down the track. We're going to have a restart. I mean, it takes you all over the place in racing.
Yeah, they had the TV cameras on you a lot in those closing laps, and you looked a little nervous. Now, I want to ask you, when your drivers are running 1-2, you're going to have a green-white checker finish like that. You know how badly Denny wants to win. You know how badly Kyle wants to win. We don't hear you come on the radio and give them instructions, but are those kinds of situations discussed in advance, and what do you tell your drivers?
Yeah, it is discussed in advance. We had real good meetings this year before the year started. Talked about everything from a team standpoint, how Denny and Kyle were going to have to help Joey. And then one thing you can definitely say in racing, if you have 3 good cars like that, at sometime during the year there's going to be something's going to happen between teammates. And so basically you talk all that over in advance. You kind of have the game plan laid out. And our deal is, hey, our guys are going for it. At the end, it's everybody going for it. Now, let me say this. I get nervous because that makes for a nervous situation, knowing that you got 2 guys that want to win it that badly, and they're going to go for it, and anything can happen. And normally, it does.
You don't want to go from 2 for 2 to 0 for 2 in the blink of an eye, that's for sure. Talk about the start of this season for your race teams. How do you grade your team through the first month and a half of competition?
Well, I think for certainly Kyle's off to a real fast start, and that's good for us. Our focus in the offseason were on some key issues, but in particular, we want to finish strong this year. We feel like we're right on track there. Denny, I think, has really got a mindset of being, I think he said it himself, first part of the year, he says, I'm tired of people saying I got potential, he wants to win. I think he has that kind of a mindset, and certainly I think Denny does not make many mistakes. I think he's going to get stronger and stronger as the year goes. Joey, obviously we start out with an 18-year-old. The first thing that happens to us is to take away all testing. We were going to test our guts out with Joey. And so he's going to these tracks many times, having not been in a Cup car there. And so you're starting out with a brand new experience. And in some cases, for instance, Martinsville, he's never been to the racetrack. So it's been, really there's been 3 things that happened to him that really have hurt us. He got wrecked at Daytona. It really wasn't his fault. Somebody turns in front of him and he tried to miss it. He gets hit from behind at Atlanta when we're running, probably going to wind up in that race and finishing somewhere around 20th or 19th. And then this past week, you know, he blows the motor with 8 laps to go. We're probably going to finish somewhere around 26th. Had that not happened to us, obviously we'd have been in a totally different situation. But now, hey, that's NASCAR. That's this series. It's a tough, hard-nosed deal. We're going to have to fight every single week, fight our guts out, and find a way to climb up in the points.
Coach, team owner of a NASCAR Sprint Cup team, nationwide series teams as well. 2009 and these times we live in. What's the number one thing you have discussions with NASCAR about right now?
I think, you know, there's all kinds of issues, to be quite truthful. But certainly, I can say this, NASCAR, I think they have their ear to the ground. They're talking to the teams. They're looking at all different ways. And of course, everybody's number one thought is, how can we do this for less? You know, you don't want to put a burden on sponsors, and certainly it's in this kind of a business climate, it's extremely tough. We've been very fortunate here with our situation, and matter of fact, you know, we've had a couple of our sponsors re-up with us during this tough time. So it says that NASCAR works. NASCAR is a great marketing tool. I think it's only going to get better, and but I think at the same time it makes it tough. Anybody dealing with corporations or corporately right now, it's extremely tough, and of course that feeds right down to us and the other teams in the sport. But I think right now NASCAR is focused on how do we save money, how do we make the sport as competitive as we can make it. I think they're always looking at competitive issues. I know we've talked about a lot of things with rookie drivers and things like that. We're constantly talking to them about, you know, our concerns. And but I think they understand the business climate, and they understand how tough it is.
Well, of all the money there was in the purse at Bristol on Sunday, you took the big chunk of it by finishing 1-2. Congratulations on your 6th 1-2 sweep in the Cup Series, and we'll wish you luck in Martinsville this weekend.
Thank you. Hey, we appreciate it very much. Hey, thanks, and hey, looking forward to hopefully everybody's going to be at Martinsville. I think the biggest thing is our fans. We appreciate them in a tough climate like this. Everybody's showing up. That was a great crowd on Sunday, and we had a great one that I felt like at Daytona. We had a great crowd at Vegas. I think our fans are doing their part.
All right, Coach, thanks. Up next, we wrap up a few more topics from Sunday's Bristol race, including tires and the type of racing we saw in Thunder Valley. This weekend, the NHRA Full Throttle Drag Racing Series on ESPN2, qualifying from Houston Saturday, and the finals on Sunday. Check it out, the NHRA this weekend on ESPN2. This was the 4th race at Bristol since the track was resurfaced and the progressive banking added in the last 4 races before the track change. Average 15 cautions and 86 laps of yellow per race. Since the change, the number of yellows has dipped dramatically, and so has the number of lead changes. We still see a lot of the same things in a Bristol race that we used to see. People running into each other in inopportune times. That was Dave Delaney when he was running second. Traffic still hard to handle. The old accordion effect is still a problem. Guys getting swept up in other people's messes. The leaders still have to work really hard in lap traffic, and when cars get side by side, it's still a tough place to maneuver around. Question is, has the racing changed?
You needed to clear the lap cars quick and just try to you know, hold your ground for a little bit, especially us. Our car took off the last 30 laps, so the first 30 I tried to hold cars off and then go for the long run. I think we were best on a long run for today.
Years past, we've come with a hybrid of the 24 setup, the 88, the 5, the 20, whatever our teammates were doing, we're trying stuff. And this is the first time we've really come on our own and set up the car like we wanted to, and it worked, and it did what I needed it to do.
It's a totally different Bristol than what it used to be, and it's a real challenge for me. I mean, I just had some things really figured out on the old Bristol. You know, even if the car was off a little bit, there were certain things you could do, clip the apron and different things that make the car turn, the way you'd enter the corner. Man, I tell you, it's tough on this racetrack. I started searching around quite a bit, following some other guys, watching some other guys make some things work. You never can stop learning in this sport. And, you know, the adjustments and me driving it that way, you know, kind of finally started to get the car to turn.
It's been a topic of discussion on the grandstand side of things after they did the reconfiguration of Bristol, so let's talk about it here. Has the racing really changed? You look at some different numbers like we did before. You can make a case that things have changed. You talk to some of the drivers on the racetrack, they'll tell you, yeah, it's changed for the better. Opinions here. Has the racing at Bristol changed?
I don't think there's any doubt that it's changed, but how much of it is the racetrack? And along with that change in the racetrack came the change with the car. So how much do we put there? But it depends on what you're looking for, you know, because you have more room to race, you're not going to have nearly the accidents that you had the running in, because you have more opportunities to get away. As people's cars go away, they don't just have to try to figure out a way now to stay around the bottom. They can move up, and that gets them up out of the way, so you don't have as much contact. And to some fans, that's not as good.
I agree with DJ. I think the racing is actually a little bit better. Sometimes on TV we can't show all the way back through the field, but if you look through the back of the field, the racing's better. You're seeing side-by-side racing. The lap cars are still a factor, but they're not as big a factor as they were.
And the big thing, too, is with the fewer cautions and caution laps, it changes the strategy. We used to have all these cautions. You'd have half the guys pitting on this one, you'd have half the guys pitting on the next one, and then you would have some wild cards in there to throw into the mix. We don't see that as much. I think the pure racing is better, but it is definitely different.
It may not be as much of a demolition derby, but then again, they have those available on you know, on Seekonk Speedway and other places. But I think it's interesting for the fans to compare the two. They're still seeing some great short track competition. Up next, Saturday's Nationwide Series and Legends races. The NASCAR Nationwide Series ran 300 laps in Thunder Valley Saturday. The Scott's Turf Builder 300. Kevin Harvick, one of the pre-race favorites. Kyle Busch did a lot of the leading, over half the race, in fact. Carl Edwards in the 60, one of those who gave him a run for it, but it looked like Kyle had the best car. Then a caution flag for this Brad Keselowski spin changed the day. By the way, Brad came back to finish 12th. Trouble on pit road with 46 to go for Kyle Busch.
Yeah, here's a tire rolling across pit road, and that's a no-no. Kyle Busch would go from the lead to coming in and being the last car on the lead lap. Kept him from winning.
Yeah, it did. So while Kyle got sidetracked on pit road, watch Harvick here. He comes off pit road ahead of Carl Edwards. Critical moment. So Harvick gets away in the final laps, and he will take the checkered flag for the victory, while behind him Kyle Busch only able to get back to 6th, leaving him very disappointed. At race's end, nothing but smiles though for Kevin Harvick, getting a Nationwide Series win, driving for his own team for the first time. Kevin Harvick, the first owner driver to win a nationwide race since 2004 when Joe Nemechek took the checkers at Kansas. Nemechek, one of 4 owner drivers to win that season, joining Michael Waltrip, Justin Labonte, and Robbie Gordon. Nice to see for Kevin Harvick.
Yeah, he did a great job, and I know that he's probably more glad that we won't be asking him that question anymore, that he got that out of the way. But, you know, the thing that I was happy about, they've had times that they have had the best car, and something always happened, and a number of times it was his pit crew. They stepped up, did the job there, got him out front, and to me, that was a key.
You know who was the happiest, though? Not Harvick. Delana Harvick. Yeah. She's the real owner. He was the one that was the happiest.
She's the one that gets to actually put the plus check mark there. The other racing Saturday at Bristol was the Scott Saturday Night Special. Now, before the main event, the celebrity race happened, where celebrities, like 3/4 of whom were from our ESPN crew, got behind the wheel and went at it. We had Andy in the 41 car, Ray in the 2 car, Brad in the 34. Where these guys finished was supposed to determine where their legend partners would start in the nightcap. Let's just say that turn 1, lap 1 got somewhat contentious between our two. Note they're seated at opposite ends of the table for this particular program. They went off into the corner. Apparently, well, first of all, watching a 7-footer fold himself into a race car is always entertaining.
Yeah, everybody always asks, how does he get in that thing? Right there, hey, it's how he does it.
All right, so somebody take me through what's going on here now.
Well, I was a little confused. We were supposed to start single file, and Andy was supposed to start 4th. So right before the race started, Andy pulled up and started 2nd. And then something was wrong with his steering because he kind of run me down on the apron there, and I had to get out of the gas. And he went on. Took me a little while to catch him.
Looked at me like I gave you plenty of room right there. That's the first time I've seen that view.
And then right there, looks like I just ran out of talent and put a dent in Philip Morris's car.
Oh, man. And that was the last thing you wanted to do.
You're not still mad, are you?
Oh, I'm still mad. Yeah, absolutely.
That's why we've had to have security out here all day.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So the finishing order from that race, putting Sterling Marlin on the outside of the front row for the Legends race, where all drivers who've had wins at the past in Bristol, many of whom retired from active competition, went at it. Junior Johnson was there, had a wreck in practice when he and Jimmy Spencer got together somehow.
Now, see, right there, that's cutting somebody off, right? You saw that.
But somehow they managed to repair Junior's car and got him to the grid. That was pretty cool. And then they got him fired up to go.
Gentlemen, start your engine.
David Pearson, how cool is that?
And this whole race was so neat to see these guys. Look at Harry Gant get the big jump on the start.
Now, Sterling Marlin's in the yellow car. He gets the lead pretty quickly, and he basically leads the whole way. Harry had a little hood trouble.
Yeah, hood pin came out, and unfortunately, at that particular time, he was running Sterling Marlin down.
So Rusty had to start a little deeper in the pack, got his way up to second behind Sterling, but just couldn't find a way to do anything with him.
No, it was a good race, and I'll tell you, Rusty was driving his butt off, too. I don't know if you saw the in-car camera, but it looked like the old Rusty. Them arms were flailing.
Here was the star of the show to me, L.D. Ottinger, 70 years old. Man, he got after it.
Said he hadn't been in a race car in 15 years.
And he passed more cars than anybody. But here's what it's all about, right here, getting the trophy, and also, let's don't forget, this thing was for charity. And Samaritan's Feet was my charity, and that's going to be a good thing for them and all the charities.
$25,000 check to charity on behalf of the winning team. So, you know, when I talked about earlier at the top of the show, that line about ringing ears and people mad at each other, that obviously was with a purpose, but we survived it okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it's gone pretty good. Yeah, the security up here has been really good today, keeping Andy and Ray apart.
And I wasn't really mad. I just went over to him and asked him to explain the start, and then I just let him know that if he wanted some help fixing the steering in his car, that I would come help him fix it, because the next time we race together, my brakes might not work as good.
What was the thing that Jimmy Spencer said that time at North Wilkesboro when he got into it with somebody? His brakes failed when he went into turn 3 or something, and no, what was it? Car jumped out of gear. He had some line anyway, and it got everybody a big laugh. You're supposed to help me out here. I can't believe you guys don't remember this.
I can't remember.
It's in North Wilkesboro. Anyway, it caused a big wreck. We had a lot of fun doing that. It was tremendous to see Cale Yarborough, Junior Johnson, all these guys back in a race car.
Yeah, all kidding aside, and these guys aren't mad. We're having a good time with it. But the whole day was very special. To see Andy and Ray and Brad do a great job out there, that was fun. But those other guys, to see Junior Johnson and Cale Yarborough, Harry Gant looks like he looks the same that he did when he got out of the race car.
I couldn't tell any difference. We had him on our pre-race show for the Nationwide race, and it looked just like the picture they showed of 1992 when he was winning a race. I can't get over it. I don't know how he does it.
It was a whole lot of fun.
Oh, as a race fan, which I am a race fan, to be able to stand there in a fire suit, you know, talking to Jack Ingram about corners and stuff like that, you know, it's just you could have given $1 million more to charity, and it would have been worth it.
And a good time was had by most all. Up next, a preview of this weekend's action. 500 laps at Martinsville for the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series. Another half-mile short track, but that's where the similarity to Bristol ends. A quick look at the bubble area of the top 35 in owners' points. Who's locked into the Martinsville field? Barely. And who's got to race their way in? You see that Scott Speed, Eric Almirola, and the Yates Racing 98 car going to have to find a way into the Martinsville field on time. David Gilliland and the TRG Motorsports Group are the last guaranteed starter for this weekend's Martinsville race. Now, we got some brand new toys today, and we sent Ray earlier to have a little show and tell with us about Martinsville.
Bristol and Martinsville are both short tracks. They're both about the same length, but they're very different. So different, in fact, that the lap times at Martinsville are almost 4 seconds slower than the lap times at Bristol. That's because of the banking. At Bristol, the track is banked. It forces the car vertically into the racetrack, makes it stick. At Martinsville, the track's kind of flat. It forces the car to the right. Lots of lateral force. So if a team wants to run the same car at Bristol and Martinsville, it's going to have to make some changes. Now, I want to show you about 3 sections of those changes on our Home Depot cutaway car. One of the first things that they're going to do is probably come down here and soften the front springs and let the car get down into the track on its own without having all the vertical force. They'll also lighten the shock to match that spring. Now, even though the teams ran big brakes at Bristol, they'll open up all their brake cooling because they have to slow down a lot more for the corner at Martinsville. It's going to create more heat. They got to cool that brake. Another thing that they'll do is drop the tire pressure on the left side 3 or 4 pounds. And that doesn't sound like a lot, but for a car or a tire that's only got 12 pounds of air in it to start with, it's a big change. Then come to the back, they'll soften these rear springs, again, to let the car get down, but to let it get some forward bite to get off the corner. Another thing that the team might do is raise this track bar to help the car turn. But one of the biggest things that they'll change is that gear. There'll be up to 100 points per gear difference at Martinsville compared to Bristol. So Martinsville, Bristol, short tracks, absolutely. The same, absolutely not.
There you go, as we get set to head to the shortest track on the NASCAR Sprint Cup circuit in Martinsville. One of the flattest, too, just 12 degrees of banking in the turns. Also one of the oldest, 1947. In fact, it is the oldest, the only remaining track on the schedule from NASCAR's original season for the Cup Series. And all of that said, don't confuse Martinsville with being the easiest track, because it is a handful. Why is the smallest and slowest track on the circuit so tough?
Well, you have to be so precise with everything that you do. Ray was talking about those brakes, but you can't abuse the brakes. If you do, you're not going to have any later on. Plus, it upsets the car in trying to let it roll and trying to get the car hooked up. He's talking about those softer springs in the rear. Man, forward bite is what everybody really fights there.
And, you know, really, the car gets more abuse at Martinsville than about any other track we go to, because it abuses so many of the parts. You know, the gear, the running gear of the car, the axles, all of the rear end gear transmission, and the brakes, and just everything. Tires, everything gets pushed to the max at Martinsville.
It'll chew them up and spit them out. All right, so that's some of the mechanical aspects of it. Let's talk about some of the people aspects of it. Who do you like this weekend at Martinsville, and why? DJ, you're first.
Well, I'm going to go with Jeff Gordon. I picked him to win Bristol yesterday, but he obviously didn't quite do that, but had a great day there. I just believe this is the type of racetrack that Jeff has always been good at. He and Ray Everdham worked extremely hard years ago to make Jeff a better driver here, and I look for him to go to victory lane on Sunday.
Well, I would keep picking him because he's going to win sometime soon. Andy, who you like?
I like Denny Hamlin, and he's good everywhere, but he is a short track ace, and he proved it again at Bristol by getting a second place finish. I think he's going to better that by 1 when we get to Martinsville, because this is a place he's really, really good.
And that track, one that Denny has a lot of history on, going back to his late model days. Ray, who you like?
I got to go with DJ. I'm going to pick Jeff Gordon because I feel like he and Stephen Letarte are communicating better. It looks like the pit crew's got their act together, and Jeff is due for a win.
We saw in the graphic we had up there a little while ago that Jimmy Johnson has won like 4 of the last 5 at Martinsville.
Oh, wait a minute. Can I change my pick? I'm staying with him.
He might not be a bad one to keep an eye on. I think we were talking off the air earlier among us that we were surprised Jimmy hadn't won a race yet this season. This might be a week to keep an eye on that 48 car as well. That's Martinsville for the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series this coming Sunday afternoon. Up next, final thoughts from this NASCAR Now Monday Roundtable. Tonight at 9:30 Eastern Time, ESPN, it is the final of the World Baseball Classic, Korea versus Japan. That's coming up 9:30 Eastern Time tonight, the final of the World Baseball Classic. And if you want more NASCAR Now Monday Roundtable, tune into ESPN News as soon as we're done here on ESPN2. We'll talk a little bit more about all the latest happenings in NASCAR with Ray, Andy, and DJ. That's ESPN News as soon as we're done. A couple of news and notes here for you. Yates Racing is going to suspend operations of the 28 team due to a lack of sponsorship. Team saying today it will not be going to Martinsville with Travis Kvapil. Ted Christopher led the Whelen Southern Modified Tour season opener at Concord, North Carolina, wire to wire. Congratulations for him. And a story today about how Richard Petty Motorsports majority owner George Gillette is in the process of restructuring his assets and could sell hockey's Montreal Canadiens as part of that. However, the team saying there are no current plans to sell the race team. Ray's a minority shareholder in that race team, though not involved in the operations of that at all. I kind of feel like I have to ask you, any comment on that?
Well, I'm involved as a minority shareholder in the race team only, not in any of his other business stuff. But if he sells it, I hope he gets a big profit because that's good for me, too.
It'd be good for the stockholder, right? All right, down to our final couple of minutes here. It's a shame about the 28 car not going to be in Martinsville.
Yeah, it really is. We're really hoping that they would get sponsorship. Travis has done a really good job in that car for them. Hopefully something will come along and maybe they can start that back up.
Yeah, it would be good to see. So Travis Kvapil looking for work. The team also saying, by the way, in that that they were going to disperse the employees around other parts of Roush Fenway and Yates Racing, and that people were going to get to hang on to their jobs. So that's a good thing. So Martinsville this weekend. What else on your mind? Anything?
No, I think that we're going to see a good race. I think that this car, people have gotten more used to it. I think Goodyear's got a handle on the tires. I think we're going to see a racier Martinsville race.
Oh, yeah, I can't wait. I love short track racing, the beating and banging. In Martinsville, they haven't changed it much over the years. We're going to see a typical Martinsville race, and I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, hardest track for a driver to learn, huh?
Yeah, it really is. I mean, even after you go there for a long time, you still are learning, and you better be learning. And I think we heard Jeff Gordon talk about that he was still learning at Bristol yesterday, so you have to continue to do that. But this car in particular is a real challenge at that racetrack.
Just flashing back to the conversation with Coach Gibbs earlier, no testing, taking Joey Logano to Martinsville, and boy, what a tough task that is for that young man this weekend. Tuesday, Brian Vickers on NASCAR Now, plus some news from the Nationwide Series. You'll want to hear some new drivers coming to the series with a rather famous name. That's it for the Monday Roundtable edition of NASCAR Now. Thanks for watching.